शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वज्रनानन्दनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमग्रहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Namaskaram and welcome to the 23rd session of Narayaniyam series. This is the fourth part of the special mini-series of Upanyasam on the 24 Incarnations of Brahman, suitably placed after Kapila Avatara Dashakam 15 and Naranarayana Avatara Dashakam 16 by Bhattadiri. So far, we discussed through Bhattadiri's descriptions the great Paramapurusha, or the cosmic Brahman, and his son, creator Brahma, also known as Hiranyagarbha. Then the Sanat Kumaras, Narada Mahamuni, of course, Naranarayana, albeit briefly, Varaha Avatara and Kapila Avatara extensively. So far, we will be seeing more on Naranarayana Avatara at the end of the mini series of incarnations through the lens of Narayana Bhattadiri's Narayaniyam, Dasakam 16. Last week in session 22, we discussed the incarnation of Sri Dattatreya with profuse details drawn from a plethora of information and documentation from Srimad Bhagavatam, Padma Purana, Garuda Purana, Brahma Purana, Brahmanda Purana, and Sattvata Samhita, and many more spiritual literature, including through the prisms of Avaduta Upanishad and Avaduta Gita. Shashtamatre Rapartyatvam Mrita Prapto Anasuyeya Anvikshikim Alarkaya Praklada Adibhya Uchivan. We saw the third chapter, Shloka 11, from the very first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how the sixth incarnation of Brahman, Datta, was brought about. To recollect those details, please go back to session 22, which describes in detail all of these. Sri Datta expounded the philosophy of Atman or Brahman. We also saw how these pretensions and prejudices come about to any learner while in the process of learning with a little bit of ego and not with total surrender. Datta's core message is never judge by surface appearances of anyone or anything, but always seek a deeper truth. Don't be judgmental. Accept everything that is offered and then go deeper into the truth and find the Satyam yourself. Krishna advises Uddhava to take to the path of renunciation or the order of sannyasa before attempting to come to Vaikuntha. And when Uddhava showed keen interest in more elaborate instructions of what Krishna talked about, Krishna was compassionate to describe his earlier avatara as Datta Avatara, also known as Avaduta Avatara, and Datta's account of his 24 spiritual masters retold by Sri Krishna to Uddhava. We saw the three slokams in chapter 7 of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that listed the 24 gurus of Dattatreya. Prithvi, Vayuhu, Akasham, Apo, Agnihi, Chandrama, Ravihi. Kapoto, Ajagaraha, Sindhu, Patango, Madhukrut, Gajaha. Madhuha, Harino, Minaha, Pingala, Kuraraha, Arbakaha. Kumari, Sharakrut, Sarpa Vunabihi, Supeshakrutu. Yete me Guravo Rajan, Chaturvimshati, Ashrataha. Siksha, Vrittibihi, Etesham, Anvasiksham, Mihatmanaha. Kannan Uddavariடம் சொல்லுகிறார், ஓ உத்தவா, இப்போது நான் சொன்ன 24 தத்துவங்களும் எனது ஆச்சாரியர்கள் என்றும் சொல்லலாம். அவர்களை தத்துவங்களாகவும் கொள்ளலாம், என்னுடைய குருமார்களாகவும் ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளலாம். அங்கிருந்துதான் என் பிறவியின் ரகசியத்தையும் நானும் நீயும் எப்படி வாழ வேண்டும் என்ற உண்மையை நான் தத்தனாக வந்தபோது இந்த தரணியில் யது மகாராஜனுக்கு சொல்லி அருளினேன். அதை இப்போது மறுபடியும் உனக்கு சொல்லுகிறேன், கேட்டுக்கொள் என்கிறார் பகவான் கிருஷ்ணன். In the last session, we saw somewhat in detail the very first 9 gurus out of the 24 gurus. Prithvi, the earth, Vayuhu, the wind, Akasham, the sky, Apaha, the waters, Agnihi, fire, Chandrama, the moon, Ravihi, Surya or the sun, Kapotaha, the pigeons or birds, Ajagaraha, python. We will see the remaining gurus starting from the 10th guru to the 24th, and also in brief detail the 25th guru that Datta explained in the process, namely his own body as a teacher. So 25th guru, not only for Datta, for all of us, is one's own body, about which we saw some brief sketches last week, but we will go through that part of it again towards the end of this session. Stokam stokam grased grasam deho vartata yavata grihat ahimsannat tishtet vrittim madhukarim munihi. In 4 slokams, Madhukrit has been explained as a guru by Datta. A saintly person should accept only enough food to keep his body and soul together. Stokam stokam grased grasam deho varteta yavata. He should go from door to door in bhiksha, accepting just a little bit of food from each family which voluntarily offers such food. Thus, the saint should practice the occupation of the honeybee of getting what is essentially required to keep the body and soul together. Bumblebee, one may ask a question, what is a bumblebee and what is a honeybee? I'll come to that. Bumblebee actively seeks material benefits of the world. Whenever the word Madhukrit is explained, different explanations can be given. Somebody who creates Madhu, namely honey creator. But honeybee can be bumblebee, but the reference here is to the bumblebee because it also seeks material benefits in the world. However, this bumblebee does this with discretion, taking only what it needs from each flower and not greedy. It goes to different flowers and takes a small portion of it. It collects food from all flowers, high and low, large and small, whether the flower is going to produce something consumable or the flower is only going to wither away as a flower. But the Madhukriti is going to just take pollen from each one of them and it is satisfied. Just as a scholar should seek wisdom from a range of scriptural authorities and a range of scriptural teachers, some may appear to be very simple, some may appear to be very complex, great yogis and all that, but the wisdom is sought from everybody. Different authorities, different scriptures provide information in different manner, but still collect them all. Utilize it for your advantage. That is one aspect of bumblebees, picking and not choosing from different flowers. However, the bumblebee burdens no one and even helps them achieve their purpose through pollination. By picking those pollen, the flowers get pollinated and thereby they become fruitful. Much as a teacher should live gently upon the earth and help others realize their true goals. The teacher should be taking information from all sources without affecting any source possible. At the same time, in the process, the rest of the people are benefited because the teacher becomes the Acharya to impart that has been gathered. But unlike the honey bee, different from the bumblebee, this bumblebee does not take a lot more than its need. Honeybee does a different thing. A wise person should not store up material treasures. Why a bumblebee is referred here, not honeybees? The answers are going to come in another Acharya. The answer comes next from the beekeeper who steals the savings of honeybees. Bumblebee also stores honey, but very, very minuscule amount somewhere and then consumes it. Not like honeybees in a beehive. The 11th Acharya is Madhuha, the honey thief or beekeeper. In effect, is a thief who profits by honeybees. Madhuha is a thief. Because honeybees have contributed, created a hive, the thief goes conveniently, smokes it out, and removes it. In the process, even kills the honeybees. Honeybees do what? They work themselves to death to build up a hoard of material wealth, namely, in this case, honey hive. Wealth can bring only pain. Wealth hoarded waits only to fill the thief's pockets. Not only said here in the context of beekeeper, Atichudi Kondrai Vendan, Mudurai, Nyanakural, Ashadikovai, Pandanandadi, Nalvari, many of you may know. For those of you who may think that it is something to do with any items in a restaurant, they are not. They are all Avvayar's great works. Avvayar என்ற ஒரு பெரிய ஆசிரியர் இயற்றிய அருமையான நூல்கள். இவற்றுக்குள் நல்வழி என்று ஒரு அழகான புத்தகம், கோவை. அந்த கோவையிலிருந்து ஒரு செய்யுள் உங்களில் பலருக்கும் தெரிந்திருக்கும். பாடுபட்டு தேடி பணத்தை புதைத்து வைக்கும் கேடுகட்ட மானிடரே கேளுங்கள், கூடுவிட்டு இங்கு ஆவி போயினவின், கூடுவிட்டு இங்கு ஆவிதான் போயின பின்பு யாரே அனுபவிப்பார் பாவிகால் அந்த பணம். Let me go slow, even though it takes time. பாடுபட்டு தேடி பணத்தை புதைக்கு வைக்கும் கேடுகட்ட மானிடரே கேளுங்கள். Avvayar is addressing. கூடு விட்டு இங்கு ஆவிதான் போயினவின் யாரே அனுபவிப்பார் பாவிகால் அந்த பணம். அதாவது சேர்த்து புதைத்து வைத்த பணம். செல்வத்தை வருந்தி 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 உழைத்து சேர்க்கிற புத்தி கட்ட மனிதர்களே கொஞ்சம் கேளுங்கள். தானும் பசியார உண்ணாமலும் அறவழி செயல்களில் ஈடுபடாமலும் பாதுகாப்புக்காக பயந்து திருடர்களுக்கு பயந்து பூமிக்கு அடியிலே புதைத்து வைத்து நகர்ந்து போகிற மனிதர்களே, புத்தி கட்ட மனிதர்களே கேளுங்கள். உங்களுக்கு பின்னர் அந்த செல்வத்தின் பயனை அடைய போவது யார் என்று உங்களுக்கு தெரியுமா? உங்களுக்கே தெரியாது. அப்படி இருக்கையில் எதற்காக சேர்த்து வைக்கிறீர்கள்? நீங்கள் மறைவதற்கு முன் உங்கள் மன திருப்திக்காகவே உங்கள் கண் முன்னேயே 4 பேரை 40 பேரை 400 பேரை வாழ வைக்கலாமே. அந்த பணத்தினால் அனுபவிக்க வேண்டிய சந்தோஷத்தை அதன் மூலியமாக அனுபவித்து விட்டு செல்லுங்களே, அந்த பணத்துக்காவது உபயோகம் இருக்குமே என்கிறாள் ஔவையார். The beekeeper or anyone who steals the money stored by the miserly honeybees, unlike the smarter bumblebee, which only takes what it wants, are equated to the misers by Avvayar, one of the greatest poets and scholars who is believed to have lived during the 3rd century before Common Era, or 300 BCE, or about first Sangam era. சங்க காலம் என்று சொல்வார்கள். முதற் சங்க காலத்தில் இருந்தாள் ஔவையார் மூதாட்டி. Avvayar is stated to be a contemporary of Thiruvaiyaru, who gave us the magnum opus Tirukkural.
பாடுபட்டு தேடி பணத்தை புதைத்து வைத்து கேடு கட்ட மானிடரே கேளுங்கள். பாடுபட்டு தேடி பணத்தை புதைத்து வைத்து கேடு கட்ட மானிடரே கேளுங்கள். கூடு விட்டிங்கு ஆவிதான் போயினபின் யாரே அனுபவிப்பார்? கூடு விட்டு ஆவிதான் போயினபின் யாரே அனுபவிப்பார்? பாவிகால் அந்த பணம் யாரே அனுபவிப்பார்?
Acharyas says in the above Chayul an admonishment. Hey, rotten, idiotic humans, you struggle all your lives earning huge amounts of wealth but rarely spend it for your own happiness, betterment, improvement, nor share it with needy and deserving, but bury that for fear of theft and loss. And all your wealth remain in completely below the ground or in a safe deposit locker where you don't even often attempt to see whether it is inside there or somebody has already put another key and knocked it away. Some people keep gold and huge amounts of money inside a safety deposit locker where they would not have even opened it for 15-20 years out of laziness. That is precisely what Acharyas knew some 2,300 years ago. But answer me. That's what Acharyas is asking. After your last breath is out of your body, who is going to enjoy all your hoarded wealth? Pabhigale, you sinners. Her poetry is very sharp, very pungent often, but is full of truth for the misers around the world. Satyam endrume valikum. Satyam எப்போதுமே நம்மை கொட்டும், தேள் கொட்டுவது போல. ஆனால் இந்த கொட்டலில் அறிவுதான் கிடைக்கும். You get knowledge out of this sharp, pungent, stinging. The next Acharya is Kurara bird. The 12th Acharya is the hawk. Kurara is the hawk. Why hawk should be a teacher? Hawk picks up some food and when attacked by other bigger birds, hawk gives up the food without any fight. It simply drops it and runs away. It remains hungry, all right, because other birds have knocked the food away. This hawk has really taken so much strain, flying miles and miles to pick up that food. But by dropping it, it is left in peace and it goes and takes some rest somewhere, even though hungry. The message again is that worldly possessions are a source of trouble. You continue to pursue. But when you pursue them, when other people are actually trying to covet them and give you as much trouble as possible, sometimes it is vivekam to dump or drop all the troubles and then walk away. Your troubles also disappear. You will be probably less rich, less wealthy, or you may have less money, but you are at least let free. Happiness and enlightenment belong to one who lives simply and seeks only spiritual goals. Why do you desire affluence? You have no wealth. You have no wife. You have nothing that you can call it your own. That is the nectar of supreme knowledge. I didn't say this. This is the meaning of the sloka which I am going to give you from Avadhuta Gita. Aishwaryam ichchasi katam na chate danani. Aishwaryam ichchasi katam na chate hi patni. Aishwaryam ichchasi katam na chate mama iti. Jnanamritam samarasam gagana upamoham. How can you desire sovereignty when you have no wealth? How can you say, I am a king, when you have nothing to say you are a king? You don't have any wealth. Why are you seeking wealth when you have no wife? As you have no sense of ownership, what will you do with that kind of wealth which you acquire? Because you have no wife, no children, nobody to care for, but you have only wealth. You are worried. You preserve the wealth. You don't have any use for it. Look at me. Datta says, I am existence, knowledge, bliss. I am Satchidananda and boundless as space. No commitments. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to save. No one to care for. But I am that Avadhuta. That's about the Acharya number 12. Acharya 13 is Sindhu, the ocean. Also in Avadhuta Upanishad, Sloka 10. Like the supreme, Sindhu is limitless, timeless, and lucid at the surface, yet so deep that nothing disturbs its lower waters. It receives a million rivers yet remains unchanged. There's so much going on under about 5 feet or 6 feet of the large ocean. The secrets of ocean are only known 0.not 1% by oceanographers and great scientists who analyze what is underneath the great oceans. We have very limited, if not little knowledge about that. But you don't see turbulence on an open ocean. If you just go far away from the shores, you can see how tranquil the ocean is. But there is so much going on underneath. It receives a million years from all around the world, all around the earth, yet remains unchanged. Ocean has only one quality, the quality of ocean, the quality of that water in the ocean. Equally, the wise should seek equipoise, be absorbed by the ocean of Lord Almighty, and remain unperturbed by the river-like inputs of the senses. So much is being dumped in the ocean, but the ocean's characteristic never change. Similarly, the Atman is tainted by so much inputs by the senses, but it should not be tainted if you remain away from the inputs. Elsewhere, Datta teaches that a spiritual aspirant should begin by cultivating a mental white blanket to cover the noise from the bodily senses and then striving to unite with the sense of each element in turn, beginning with the earth to enter into the mind of all things, a process analogous to ecological self-realization. Don't think I'm using a bamboozling word. This is what Markandeya Purana talks about. Ecological self-realization. Where does this coinage come from? Markandeya Purana consists of 137 chapters narrated by Maharishi Markandeya. A well-known character in the ancient Puranas, chapter 40, slokas 15 to 22, narrated by Maharishi Markandeya. A very well-known character in the ancient Puranas, blessed to be the eternal 16 through Mahapralaya. Chapter 40 is included in the section known as conversation between Sumati, otherwise known as Jada, and his father. Chapter 40 is also known to be the yogi's bliss. Dattatreya explains to Alarka. You remember I made the mention of 5 names? One of them is Alarka. Datta explains to Alarka the ailments that beset a yogi's soul. We only know of ailments that affect our body. Datta explains the ailments that beset a yogi's soul and mentions their 5 varieties of tapatrayas that affect the soul. He describes the yogi's duties, the stages by which final emancipation is attached, the 8 premonitory marks of final emancipation, and the results of union with Parabrahman or the Supreme Spirit or the ultimate Atman. The 14th Acharya is Patanga, the moth. Patanga is the first of a series of gurus that expose the pitfalls of these senses. Senses are the cause of everything, all tapatraya. And in that particular series, explaining the pitfalls, moth is the first guru. Here, sight destroys reason just as it destroys the moth that flirts with the flame. கண்ணால் பார்த்தவுடன் நமக்கு அதன் பேர் ஒரு கிரகிப்பு ஏற்படுகிறது. அந்த கிரகிப்பே நமது துக்கத்துக்கு காரணமாகிறது. Sight destroys reason and thereby brings peril. Similarly, you can see the Acharya moth. Moth gets destroyed because it flirts with the flame. So one should control the senses and dwell in supreme knowledge, namely Atman, rather than in the worldly pleasures, because the more and more worldly pleasures you have, you are getting closer to the flame like the moth. The 15th Acharya is an elephant. Why an elephant? The elephant is lured into a pit by the scent of its mate and then fettered, enslaved and tormented by the Mahut's goad. That's what Bhagavatam says. What is the story here? The Mahut wants to capture a huge elephant roaming around, but he cannot simply go and put a net and capture that. because this elephant is in a huge behemoth. You can't go near that. So he knows how to lure it. He brings a she elephant in heat, right in a pit. And then on top of that, he puts some kind of a cover, a huge pit, where in the corner is tied a she elephant. And what happens is, the male elephant falls into the pit, unable to get up. And then the next thing that happens is, the mahout fetters it, enslaves it, torments it for days on end, and finally the elephant puts itself into submission. And mahout's goad continuously pricks the elephant, so the elephant obeys. This is life. Bhagavan Krishna calls lust an all-devouring enemy. Elephant is a lesson how lust can destroy a person. Bhagavan says, Kamayesha Krodesha Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Miha Vairinam. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Sri Prabhupada reflects, one should remain aloof from sense gratification in the form of sex pleasure. Otherwise, there is no possibility of understanding the spiritual realm of what you can reach and how you can reach. Acharya 16 is the deer. The deer is allured into nets by the sounds of the drum beaters. The deer doesn't know where to run. So when the drum beats it in a fashion which is alluring sound, the vulgar music and sound attracts the deer not away from the drum beaters, but closer to the drum beaters. That is where the hunter is waiting with all the net to enslave deer. Great Acharyas suggest that vulgar music and entertainment arousing basal instincts should be avoided. But sacred music and sacred dance are certainly beneficial to calm you down, because it doesn't steer you towards lust, but it steers you towards a different feeling which transforms into a spiritual feeling. However, the deer is also driven by fear. Maybe that the deer ran in that direction because the fear drives through the drum beating, which is yet another obsession and distraction that helps wield the spirit in illusion. Sri Datta summarizes, Nahi bodha vibodha samadhi riti, nahi desha videsha samadhi riti, nahi kala vikala samadhi riti, himurodhishi manasi sarvasamam. Brahman is not the union of consciousness and unconsciousness. It is not the meeting point of space and outer space. It is not the merging point of time and timelessness. Being the self-same Brahman, O mind, why do you weep? Here is the one, without purity and impurity, without whole or part. Why do you, who are in union with the identity, Brahman, feel grief or fear? There is no need to fear. Avadhuta Gita, 8th sloka in chapter 5 says this. Nahi bodha vibodha samadhiriti, nahi desha videsha samadhiriti, nahi kala vikala samadhiriti, kimurodhishi manasi sarvasana. The fish, the 17th Acharya, rushes to its death, lured by the hook or the greed or the bait of food. Therefore, it is clear that if the desire for food is controlled, so the other senses are controlled automatically. By greed, automatically it would have remained alive. But it is not able to, because the tongue is the one which has really taken it to peril. Jihvayati pramantinya jano rasa vimohitaha. Prutyum ruchyati asad buddhihi meenahatu badishaihi yata. Just as a fish incited by the desire to enjoy his tongue is fatally trapped by the fisherman's hook, similarly, a foolish person is hooked on or bewildered by the extremely disturbing urges of the tongue, and thus is ruined. Tavat jitendriyo nasyad vijita anyendriyaha puman. Na jayet rasanam yavati jitam sarvam jite rase. This is Sloka 21 of chapter 8, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. Although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled all his senses. நாக்கு தான் அனைத்துக்கும் சத்ரு. நாக்கு எந்த விஷயத்தில் சத்ரு? பேச வேண்டாததை பேசினாலும் அது நாக்குதான். உணவுக்காக ஓடி ஓடி அலைந்தாலும் அதுவும் நாக்கினால் தான். சோ நாக்கு இரண்டு விதத்திலையும் நமக்கு துக்கத்தையே தரும். Although one may conquer all other senses, the tongue is very difficult to conquer. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in control of all the other senses. It will not be out of place here to introduce some relevant humor. Pardon me for that digression. A great guru of mine, when I was a teenager in India, Sri Swami Ritajanananda, who happened to be a Swamiji of Ramakrishna Order, became the head of Sri Ramakrishna Order in Gretz near Paris during the 1980s. He was known as the international head. We lived in Paris and we used to often go to Gretz ashram. It was in early 1980s. When we used to visit him in the Gretz monastery, Swamiji told me of an anecdote which he often shared with his disciples in lecture sessions. Decades later, I witnessed such phenomena with some of the ochre-robed sannyasins of the modern era missions. I'm not mentioning any particular Swamiji of any mission, but I'm only saying this in the context of the humor that Sri Ritajanananda ji told me. Some of these Swamis who reside in modern era missions often reside in mission branch quarters, which are exquisitely, specially designed and improvised with exquisitely furnished interior with most modern amenities and the state-of-art technology of computer, internet, and everything else, including 70 inches, 90 inches television, and all voice-controlled electronic equipment around this ashram quarters, all designed especially for them. Some Swamis even live with their own mother and father, because according to them, that is also essential to be Swamijis. And the devotees attend to the Swamis according to their individual taste, and they hand over a 7-day lunch and dinner menu card to the respective Swamis. These are the bhiksha providers to the Swamis. Nevertheless, to avoid boredom of home-cooked food, these Swamis want to go with their disciples to special restaurants that offer Asian, European, and other rare cuisines. When I hear and see such happenings quite often, it is personal. I have seen it in my own recent life. I was reminded of my Paramaguru Kanchi Paramacharya, whose one-time-a-day diet for 28 days in a month used to be 3 hand morsels of water-soaked, pounded, flattened raw rice. What does it mean? Moondru pidi kai kuttal aval. He observed 2 Ekadashi Vrathams in a month. No food, no water. That kind of Ekadashi. Not pala aharam. That is when, for the first time in my life, I heard the slokam, Tavat jitendriyo nasyad vijita anyendriyaha puman. Tavat jitendriyo nasyad vijita anyendriyaha puman. Najayet rasanam yavati jitam sarvam jiterase. Isn't it amazing? An Acharya, by his pure method of life, can teach you so much by their just behavior, not by preaching. This is Sloka 21 of chapter 8 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. Pingala, Acharya 18. Pingala was a sex worker. You may call her a courtesan or sex worker, whatever name you want to call it. I don't want to demean that name. After a bad evening, this Pingala becomes disgusted with her life, her own body, and the transient pleasures or material wealth that are afforded to her because she is giving service. Not sure whether sought voluntarily or forced upon her. She is not quite sure why she is living. realizing the oneness of the Atman or Brahman, hoping for the mercy of Bhagavan from within her. For a moment, for an instant, she decides to change her ways. She wants to renounce the worldly things. She does renounce and then devotes her life to Bhagavan. Expectation that this world and the people in it are the sources of our greatest misery, as Pingala felt. And Pingala let these go and retired in peace. This is what is highlighted in Bhagavatam. Not by one slokam or two slokams. My God, between sloka 22 and 44, roughly about 23 slokas were dedicated for this one episode in chapter 8 because of the importance. Because the Pingala was not prompted by anybody. There is a prompting that came from within. She realized expectations in this world and the people in it are the very sources of our greatest misery. So let us not blame anything outside of us, because most of us have a common habit. Any problem we have, we blame either God or we blame everybody else around us for our miserable state of affairs. And we feel we are the victim. We have a victim complex. We have a blame complex. Everybody else is wrong and I am right, but still I am suffering. Look at those rich people. They do all the dirty things in the world, but still they are rich and attended to by so many people, and I am suffering. This is the attitude of most of the human beings, like the Pingala. But Pingala got realization, let go of everything. She was so happy and retired in peace. Great scholars equate Pingala's rejection of her ancient profession as total redemption and show that also as a warning to all who suffer, who offer themselves their precious time, body, self-respect, and principles for pursuing a coveted career or for abject money-making activities. I'm sorry, for want of a better word, since I cannot use any other word, I'm using the word. We offer ourselves, body, self-respect, all other principles, if we are offered a coveted career which we thought we will never get it, or for huge amounts of abject money making, which we never thought we'll go near, but we are willing to forsake everything. But Pingala was able to reject everything. Likewise, if we can also reject for all the material activities, then we can get away from this and be in tranquil freedom towards self-realization. Equally, Acharyas caution those who ruin their lives by rat racing after prizes, promotions, awards, rewards, titles, etc. Titles are offered for money. Great titles. I don't want to use the name of the title and belittle that, but very great titles, whether it is India or abroad. Money can give you titles. A little amount of quality of culture or art or something, if they are all meant for, can get you titles and prizes and promotions and more awards. Swami Tapasyananda, who lived between 1904 and 1991, a senior monk of Sri Ramakrishna Mission, because I also used to be a very ardent student follower of Ramakrishna Mission. Tapasyananda lectures, I had the pleasure of attending as a teenager. Swami Tapasyananda had an anecdote. During a bout of illness caused by overwork in the publishing company, the author found a cartoon on a colleague's door which read, "Don't die now. The graveyards are full of indispensable people." Tapasyananda continued, the moral of the story is most of the dead are soon forgotten. So what did their overwork achieve? Ultimately, there is only one that needs to be pleased, who also advises that surrendered service in the world is a sure way ahead. Yadyanisho darayitum mano brahmani nischalam mai sarvani karmani nirapekshaha samachara. This is the summary. This is given in sloka 22 of chapter 11. This is the very first sloka which talks about Pingala, which runs for 23 more slokas. But the first sloka itself captures so much information. Yaddenisho dharetum mano brahmani nischalam mai sarvani karmani niraveksha samachana. Krishna says, my dear Uddhava, if you are not able to free your mind from all material disturbance and thus absorb that completely on the spiritual platform, and if you don't know how to do it, then perform all your activities as an offering to me without trying to enjoy the fruits. Do everything, your karma, but don't expect any fruits out of it. You would have achieved the method how to reach me. Krishna also said in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmabhutaha prasannatma nasojati nakankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. What a beautiful statement. Bhagavan said this before he talked to Uddhava, the previous sloka which I read out. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains Shuddha Bhakti completely unto me. 19th Acharya, a child. How can a child be an Acharya? Because the child lives in innocent bliss. That's what Sukha tells Parikshit. As Krishna having told Uddhava. Sukha narrates to Parikshit what Krishna told Uddhava in Sloka 3 and 4, which Datta says, Na me mana apamanosto na chinta gehaputrinam atmakrida atmaratihi vicharami iha balavati. I learned from the foolish, lazy child that by becoming free from anxiety, a person becomes capable of worshipping the Supreme Brahman and experiencing supreme ecstasy. I do not worry at all about any family, and I do not care about honor and dishonor. I enjoy only the life of the soul, and I find love on the spiritual platform. Thus I wander the earth like a child. Datta, however, continues in the next slokam. Dvaveva chintaya muktau paramananda aplutau yo vimugdo jado balo yo gunebhyaha param gataha. In this world, two types of people are free from all anxiety and merged in great happiness. One who is a retarded childish fool, and the other one who has approached the Supreme Brahman. ஒன்று குழந்தை போல மனப்பான்மை, ஆனால் முட்டாளாக, இல்லை பைத்தியமாக இருக்கணும். இல்லை என்றால் எல்லாம் அறிந்து சகலத்தையும் துறந்த பிரம்மனிடம் போவதற்கு தகுதியான ஒருவன் எல்லா குணங்களுக்கு அப்பால் பட்டவனாக இருக்க வேண்டும். இவர்கள் இருவருக்குமே எந்த விதமான கவலையோ எந்த விதமான சந்தோஷமோ கிடையாது. They are free from all anxiety, all types of desires and happiness, but they are merged into great happiness. Dvaveva chintaya muktau paramananda aplutau yo vimugdo jado balo yo gunebhya param gata. The 20th Acharya is a young maiden or a virgin or a young girl. Different names are given as interpretation. Vase bahunam kalaho bhaved varta dvayorapi eka eva vaset tasmate kumarya eva kankanaha. Superficially looked at, one may wonder why a maiden is chosen to be a teacher. In fact, the maiden here is the first of the three teachers who illustrate the importance of focus and screening out of the clatter. Clatter, is the noise. To screen out of the clatter of the material world, one has to know how the maiden became the greatest Acharya for Datta. When many people live together in one place, there will undoubtedly be quarreling. The siblings are born of the same womb. They claim they love one another all the time, but they are also constantly quarreling because everyone wants to have their point across, want to prove to the other people that they are the right one, and they constantly clatter, argue, converse. This clatter is the one which is affecting. So even if only two people live together, not related to one another, but they are as roommates, there will be frivolous conversation and constant disagreement on the silliest of subjects. Oftentimes, one adjusts with the other's temperament not as a matter of completely overlooking, but to buy peace. That's the clutter I'm talking about. Therefore, to avoid conflict, one should learn to live alone, or even while living with people or amidst people, one should try to live alone metaphorically, maybe not physically, and learn to be alone amidst a crowd and noise. How? As we learned from the example of the bracelet of the young girl. A young girl had glass bracelets because she's a very poor girl in a poor family. The maiden is surprised by the unanticipated guest. In those days, there was no telephone, no communication. Suddenly, Atiti is coming to your home. The father and mother are used to treating all guests, however unanticipated, however unknown they are, but anybody who comes home, they have to be offered food and water and comfort and shelter. So the maiden is surprised. She is also expected to feed as per tradition. The father and mother look at her. When one by one look, they are telling the girl where you can bring some food or comfort to these people. She starts working on the hand grinder. What little she had, some corn she had, but she starts pounding them, she grinds them. When she grinds, her cheap arm bangles jangle and constantly make clatter or noise. She's so worried. To keep it silent, she breaks all the bangles on both hands, but keeps only one on each wrist because she knows the sampradayam. A young girl cannot be without a bangle. That's a tradition that father and mother taught. She cannot violate that. At the same time, she cannot afford to have this noise with too many bangles hitting one another because she is grinding. But continues to work. The moral here is company is a distraction. Company is clatter. Give up the association of those who are not devoted to Supreme Brahman. This is the actual lesson to be learned. Datta says, she is my Acharya. Vase bhunam kalako bhavet varta dvayorovi. Eke eva vasit tasmat kumarya eva kankana. The 21st Acharya is a snake. It lives alone in an abandoned hole and avoids humans' company. Those seeking self-realization should abide in the cave of their own heart. Egacharihi aniketaha syat apramatto guhasheha alakshyamana acharehi munireko alpabhashana. A saintly person should remain alone and constantly travel without any fixed residence. Being alert, he should remain secluded and should act in public in such a way that he is not recognized or noticed by others. Moving without companions, he should not speak more than essential. So, the lesson for a saintly person, as per Avaduta, Datta is remain like a snake. Enjoy your solitude. Avoid company. And that promotes self-realization. The 22nd Acharya is the arrowsmith. The arrowsmith focuses so completely on his work that he doesn't know what is happening around him. He fails to notice all the noise, elephants moving, horses moving, a huge procession going, because the king is going and everyone is accompanying with all the fanfare. But the arrowsmith doesn't know what is happening around him. Not that he is deaf and not that he is having no vision, but he was completely focused on creating that arrow being straight. So even when the king goes past his doorway, he doesn't know what is happening. And that is the arrowsmith. So Datta says, I would like to be like him because I want ekagra chittam. My chittam should be such that I should not know whatever clatter happens around me. I should only focus on what is interesting or essential or what I am focused upon. Total concentration is the way to achieve self-realization. Tadaivam atmanya varuddha chitto naveda kinchiti bhahirantaram va yateshu karo nrupatim brajantam ishau gatatmana dadarsa parsve. When one's absolute focus or consciousness is completely fixed on the absolute truth or the Supreme Brahman or Satyam, one no longer sees duality. One no longer seeks duality or internal or external reality. The example is given of the arrow maker who was so absorbed in making a straight arrow that he did not even see or notice the king himself was passing right next to him. We have two more Acharyas. Acharya number 23 is the spider. The spider builds a beautiful web. Sukha concentrates so much because he uses 6 slokas to highlight the value of the spider as an Acharya. Spider builds a beautiful web and then a day or two later consumes and destroys the same web. So the Supreme exudes each material universe. Remember, the Supreme Brahman exudes each material universe and after a while draws it back into his kukshi, the self. All the Brahmandas are attracted to his kukshi and his kukshi holds a Brahmanda. The Supreme Self has no desires and is beyond the reach of cause and effect. However, people make webs from their own ideas and become entangled in them. So the other side of it is not the Brahman, ordinary people like you and me. We make webs of our own ideas. We make webs of our own enmity and friendship and who we like, who we don't like, who is good, who is bad. Highly judgmental. And we become entangled in them because we have already made the judgments. We are unwilling to even open up the door to let something else come in because our judgments are sacrosanct. So the wise abandon all worldly thoughts and judgments. Yata urnabhihi hridayat urnam santatya vaktatah taya vihritya bhuyastam grasatyevam maheshwara. Just as from within himself the spider expands thread through his mouth, plays with it for some time, eventually swallows the very web that it builds. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman expands his power from within himself. Thus, Bhagavan displays the network of cosmic manifestation, utilizes it for some time according to his purpose, playfully, and eventually withdraws the entire anda, prapancha, completely within or unto himself, what we know as creation dissolution. The 24th Acharya is the caterpillar. That the wasp takes and keeps in its nest in time becomes a wasp. Equally, we come to be that upon which our mind is set. Chittamevahi samsaranta prayatnena shodayetva chittastanmayo bhavati grihyametat sanatanam. What a man thinks, that he becomes. எதை நீ நினைக்கிறாயோ அதுவாகவே மாறுகிறாய். This is the eternal mystery. எதை வேண்டுகிறாயோ அதுதான் கிடைக்கும். எதையே எப்பொழுதும் நினைக்கிறாயோ அதுதான் உனக்கு சம்பவிக்கும். இதுதான் இட்டர்னல் மிஸ்டரி, நம்மால் புரிந்து கொள்ள முடியாத புதிர். This is Maitri Upanishad or Maitrayani Upanishad, chapter 6, sloka 34. The mind of man, states the Upanishad, is the cause of his bondage and his freedom. The one whose mind is controlled by objects of sense is unfree. The one whose mind is guided by his soul is free. So one is bound, other one is in mukti. Yatra yatra manodehi dharayat sakalam diya snehad dveshad bhayat vapi yati tattva swarupatam. If out of love, hate or fear, an embodied soul fixes his mind with intelligence and complete concentration upon a particular bodily form, he will certainly attain the form that he is meditating upon. Kitaha peshaskritam dhyayan kudyam tena praveshitaha yati tat satmatam rajan purvarupam asantyajan. O king, once a wasp forced a weaker insect into its hive, kept the insect inside the wasp hive, trapped all the time. In great fear, the weak insect constantly meditated upon his captor, and without giving up his body, he gradually achieved the same state of existence as the wasp. Thus, one achieves the state of existence according to one's constant concentration. ஒரு சிறு புழுவை குளவி கூட்டிற்குள் கொண்டு வைத்து கொண்டு போக வர கொட்டி கொண்டே இருக்கும், பார்த்து கொண்டே இருக்கும். இந்த புழு எப்போதும் அந்த குளவையை கண்டு பயந்து கொண்டே இருக்கும். அந்த பயம் எப்பொழுதும் நினைக்கும் இந்த குளைவியாகவே இந்த புழு குளவியாக மாறும். In this context, Narayana Bhattacharya elaborates in Dashakam 93 the Uddhava Krishna Samvadam, highlighting the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 7 to 10, on Krishna's advice to Uddhava. You may also recollect that we saw how pointed Bhattacharya was while highlighting the pearls of wisdom by Sukha Mahamani as to the value of the human form. How difficult is it to be blessed to be a human, and how Parabrahman takes the avatara as the 25th preceptor, ordinary cowherd amongst us. And through the advice to Uddhava, talks about the 24 Acharyas from whom we all the humans should learn day in and day out. This chapter is titled Exposition of Learning from Preceptors. Kabir repeats the overriding sentiment. Durlabha manusha janma hai, deghana bharam bhar, Thiruvaiyaru patta jade, bahurina lage dhar. Birth as a human is almost impossible if not rare. It never repeats itself. Just like the tree with all leaves fallen does not blossom again. It is relevant or pertinent to mention here, but those of you who may not be aware of this, that there is popular and large-scale belief in India that the 15th century Sufi poet Sant Kabir was no one else than the great Sukha Mahamani, reborn at his own request to Krishna in Kali to bring amity between warring humans who were killing one another in the name of religion, thanks to the incitement by the Malaychas who had been invading Bharata Desham from almost the 6th century before Common Era. The invasion started 2,600 years ago for those of you who may not have been students of world history and especially Indian history highlighted in that concept. Yes, first, our Bharata Mata was invaded by Persians by 535 BCE. Then the Greeks invaded us between 336 and 323 BCE, Arabs in 700 circa, Turks, Ghazni in 1001 CE and Ghur in 1175 CE, Mongols from 1206 to 1368, Mughal from 1526 to 1761. Finally, by British, 1608 to 1947, until the so-called freedom was granted to India. All these were Malaychas trying to convert our faith, our dharma to their advantage. And most of us succumb to that, continue to succumb to that even today, even though we call ourselves as free Indians. We also revisited this Uddhava Gita episode in a shorter version during a recent session under Krishna Lila Tarangani Upanyasams. You may refer to the YouTube recordings under Tarangani series. A few weeks ago, while reviewing Kapila Gita, we saw how Kapila explains to his mother about the 24 principles starting with Prakriti and how Purusha, the supreme principle, concludes those as the great preceptor, the 25th one. This elaboration in Kapila Gita is the quintessence of the Sankhya philosophy that Kapila highlights, with Purusha and Prakriti being the main principles revolving around. In summary, something to be highlighted about this special avatar of Shri Guru Datta, Dattatreya, Sakshat Parabrahman reincarnate, is the humility that is highlighted in Bhagavata Mahapuranam, while detailing the long conversation between Dattatreya and King Yadu, when Bhagavan Datta says, "I'm just a student of nature, and I learned from my 24 gurus, and I'm ready to reach my Brahman." And these 24 gurus we just saw now were not high-sounding, so-called Acharyas of eminence. They are from the Mother Nature, and they are the gurus for us. If you want to learn something to better your life, these 24 gurus are available right in front of us in our mundane lives. If you don't want to believe in scriptures and anything else, believe in these 24 gurus, environment, Mother Earth, and what it provides to us, your life will be much better. A quick, short, yet relevant digression here. Most of us may have come across in our fairly long adult lives, our friends and family, of course, a limited number of people claiming to be lovers of nature but self-proclaimed atheists or agnostics. Such group identification may have been born out of lack of knowledge or lack of curiosity to know or self-introspection as to who they are. Many in that group love the knowledge about earth, wind energy, sky, water, and fire. Also about the planets, moon, sun, birds, reptiles, insects, and their behavior. About the mysticisms of oceans and how human knowledge is not even a small fraction compared to knowledge over the land and the cosmos. Human and animal behavior and the reasons and rationale. If only such folks keep an open mind to know the genesis and the purpose of Datta Avatara, Dattatreya's teaching, and his message in simplistic terms of picking up 24 Acharyas from the Mother Earth and the nature right in front of every common man like me and you. All these humans will confess the profound knowledge that loving nature is loving Brahman. Loving insects is love for Brahman. Loving all the creatures of life is loving Brahman. Astronomy, biology, geology, and zoology, and the like are nothing but love for the creatures of this pervasive cosmos, which in turn are specks of the Brahman in smaller versions. That is Datta's message. No one needs to be converted into Sanatana Dharma or towards Sanatana Dharma or to become a Sanatana Dharma follower. It is just sufficient if one were to show some curiosity, seriousness, and genuine interest to know and learn our scriptures, which give out the background behind the secrets of Brahman unfolding in front of our common eyesight. Dattatreya is usually depicted with three heads, symbolizing Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, past, present, and future, creation, preservation, and destruction, and the three states of consciousness, Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. He is portrayed sitting in meditation beneath the Vish tree or Kalpavriksha, with the Vish cow or Kamadhenu attending at his cow, and around him are four dogs. The dogs that accompany Guru Datta is one of the popular symbolisms. The dogs are figurative symbols. They are four. They follow the Lord as hounds of heaven and watchdogs of the ultimate truth. That's why Datta picked four dogs. The figure four, or Chatura, or Turiya, has many symbolic interpretations. Those four represent the Chatur Vedas, the Chatur Yugas, the four states of existence, four states of the world, and more, four states of word as well. The four Vedas are the Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and the Atharva Veda. The four Vedas speak of the four aspects of the Lord and of the expression of awareness as Rig Veda, the song of life as Sama Veda, the plan of work as Yajur Veda, and action and the related manifestation as Atharva Veda in greater detail. To indicate that all is fourfold, the four dogs are depicted as moving around the Lord. This is only a partial understanding of the four dogs. The dog is one of the sublime symbols of the Vedas. The dog represents the faculty to listen for, and to listen to the subtle. Dog is the only animal which is capable of listening without being distracted. And it can listen far beyond a human ear. It can listen to the subtle which the humans lack. That's why dogs have been chosen. Dogs have a better ability to listen than humans. They're alert to listening and also able to listen much more than humans in a very attentive and focused fashion. In the esoteric practices, one of the foremost practices is to make the student listen more than the need to speak. To listen for, to listen to the subtle, would lead one to clear audience, and it would further lead to listening to the voice of the silence, Listening to the voice of the silence is called listening to anahata, the heart center, where the subtle sound coming through the other can be received and perceived. All great initiates listen to the silence within and express the plan as is impressed on them in silence. Impression from the subtle planes is possible only if one is alert, able, and oriented to silence. The dog represents such an orientation, and the impression comes from higher circles and frequencies only the dogs possess. The four yugas are Krita, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali yugas, represented by four dogs accompanying Datta. The four states of the word or more, subtly known as the 4 degrees of human speech in yogic parlance, are Para, beyond, Pashyanti, perception, Madhyama, conception, and Vaikari, audible to the ear, not of human, but of dogs. The 4 states of existence are existence, awareness, thought, or speech, or action. There are many ways to explain the creation by dividing it into its 4 aspects. The Visittadvaita followers call these 4 states as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. The same 4 states are explained by Dvaitis as Paramashiva, Sadashiva, Ishvara, and Rudra. They are one and the same. By the followers of Shakta, these 4 states are called Parashakti, Ichchashakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Whether you are a Visiddha Dvaita follower, or an Advaita follower, or a Dvaita follower, or followers of Shakta, whatever system you follow, the meaning is the same, approach is the same, destination is the same, the Lord is the same, Brahman is the same. There is only one Brahman with the Turiya, the awakening, as I explained it in detail. Since Pauranikas of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhattacharya's Narayaniyam seem to routinely focus more on the commonly quoted Dashavataras, I felt it compelling, emotionally necessary to highlight the greatness of this avatara, which focuses entirely on nature and the teachers that nature provides to us. So even those who want to deny the existence of somebody named known as Brahman or God or whatever it is, even those idiots can understand that you don't have to have a particular faith or a religion to tune yourself. Listen to the nature. Look through the nature. The greatness of nature is it has provided you everything and it has provided you knowledge. Gather from that knowledge for betterment. I thought in some detail we should go into this chapter, given Bhagavan Krishna's repeated assertion in Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita about the greatness of his incarnation as the Trinity. We will see the rest of the incarnations from 7 to 22 in the next session. We will see more on the actual incarnations as explained by Bhattacharya in the sessions that will follow very soon. Narayana, 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 Narayana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavani Guruvayurappa. Narayana, 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 Narayana. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Guruvayurappa.